There was no weapons training in the Civilian Conservation Corps, but the uniforms, the bugle calls, and the Army officers in charge gave the life of the 3C camp a distinctly military feel.
They did reveille about 6 a.m. We got up and got ready for breakfast. Breakfast was 7 a.m. They did serve good food here. Then you'd grab your lunch on the way out of the mess hall. We'd have roll call, and the next thing we knew, we had a shovel on our back and we were going to work. We put in a fairly good day. The weather was nice around here. It wasn't all that bad a deal. Mel Kahn, Company 948, Rosario Beach.
November 9th, 1933. Lined up to be assigned work. Hauled up 8 logs to side of hill where water tank is to be. The heaviest fellows were sent up to the spot cleared for the tank with a 2-inch rope. I was down at the bottom with some of the others. We put the rope around the logs while the fellows on the hill pulled on the rope. They were cedar logs about 8 inches to 1 foot in diameter. These logs are for the foundation of the tank. Diary of Harry Thompson, Company 948, Rosario Beach.
The rustic bathhouses, cabins, and other structures built in the state parks by the Corps were deliberately designed to blend with their natural settings. Whenever possible, they were built from materials found on the site. The Corps hired skilled, out-of-work civilians, known as local experienced men, to show young recruits what to do and make sure they did it right. Local stone was dressed and fitted under the guidance of professional stone cutters. Experienced foresters oversaw the felling of on-site trees, which were peeled by hand and fitted together in traditional log cabin style.
I think it was September or October when we finally got the roof on. We made our own shakes, too, with a froe and a mallet out of cedar. Then we laid the shakes up. I remember it started raining about the time we were putting the roof on. We had it about half done. One of the fellows said, "Well, the rain has started for the year. We might as well get used to it." So he climbed up the ladder with a bunch of shakes on his shoulder, with no raincoat or anything, water dripping off his hair. They did furnish us with what we called tin suits for winter work. They were canvas with some waterproof material. They were really stiff. Tin suits was an appropriate name for them. Roy Holden, Camp Lewis and Clark.
Enrollees worked 5 days a week, with evenings and weekends free for recreation. Athletic events were encouraged. Baseball fields and boxing rings were as much part of the 3C camps as reveille and roll call. Many companies adopted a mascot, not only the usual cats and dogs, but often even a deer the boys had tamed in the woods. Nearly every camp had its own newsletter, written and printed by the young men themselves. Enrollees produced their own skits and plays, while musicians of varying talents formed countless camp orchestras. Often these groups would go on the road to other 3C outposts, giving Corps members in other camps something new to see. Clowning in front of the camera was another favorite pastime, even during a fire drill. Although education was not an original goal of the Conservation Corps, the need for some kind of teaching program soon became clear. Nearly 50% of recruits nationwide had failed to complete high school, and 3% could not read or write. In early 1934, an education advisor was assigned to each of these camps, and local volunteers were enlisted to teach a wide range of courses.
March 6th, 1934. I went over to the educational expert and got a paper to fill out for subjects we would like to learn. I took gas and diesel, surveying and map making, shorthand and forestry. They asked our name, age, home address, what we'd like to do, and what we expected to do later in life. I put, I expect to operate a diesel, gas, or steam shovel. Diary of Harry Thompson, Camp Rosario.
In 1942, when the U.S. economy had gotten back on its feet again, Civilian Conservation Corps was discontinued by Congress. But in just 9 years, the Corps had left America an astonishing legacy. Across the country, the 3Cs built 126,000 miles of new forest roads and trails, created 44 national wildlife refuges, restored nearly 4,000 historic structures, and planted 2 billion trees. Here in Washington, the Corps erected 260 forest fire lookouts, strung over 4,000 miles of telephone line to lookout towers and guard stations, reduced by half the annual acreage burned by forest fire, and created or improved more than a dozen state parks. Classic CCC bathhouses and shelters like these at Deception Pass can still be found at Mount Spokane, at Riverside, Beacon Rock, Lewis and Clark, Miller, Sylvania, Toano, and Saltwater State Parks. Corps members at Rainbow Falls State Park built a handsome log suspension bridge across the Chehalis River. At Ginkgo State Park, known for its ancient fossilized forest, the Corps built a windswept museum on a cliff high above the Columbia. On Orcas Island at Moran State Park, the famous stone lookout tower atop Mount Constitution was designed by architect Ellsworth Story and built by the 3C boys. Harder to measure, but just as real, were the ways that recruits benefited from the 3Cs. Hopeless young men were given the chance to help their struggling families. Hard work and 3 meals a day added much needed meat to their bones. But above all, inexperienced boys learned the discipline and responsibility that come with a paying job. Nobody got rich serving in the 3Cs, but few recruits regretted their time in the Civilian Conservation Corps.
It was actually one of the best years of my life. Many lessons were learned that you'd never get from books. I've never forgotten the many good times and the people that I met. Joseph J. Hannigan, Company 266, Deception Pass.
We seen things in the 3Cs that otherwise we wouldn't have seen, and they treated us right. Clarence Wood, Rosario Beach.
I think basically you learned to stand on your own 2 feet. You were your own man. Nobody else pulled your freight. You pulled your own. It was the greatest time of my life. Mel Kahn, Rosario Beach.